It seems that life in Kenya these days is a life of being worried all the time. Because a Kenyan is worried about the politics and the future of the country. A Kenyan is worried about disease. A Kenyan is worried about the economy, etc., etc. And now the latest serious drama last Saturday, giving Kenyans one more thing to worry about. And this one, believe me, Kenyans need to be very worried. But let me not get ahead of myself. Let's start this story at the beginning, as usual. On Saturday, 11 legislators from the area previously known during colonial days as Northern Frontier, today we call it the Northeastern Province area, visited Somalia and were hosted by the President of Somalia, President Mohamed Abdullahi Mohamed, better known as Farmajo. And they were treated as visitors of the state. And yet, locally, they had not cleared themselves up with Parliament, according to standing orders, whereby any legislator traveling out of the country has to inform the Speaker. And even the Ministry of Foreign Affairs was completely unaware of this state visit by legislators to Somalia. And to make matters worse, it comes at a time when relations between Kenya and Somalia are very chilly, at their worst. And the most recent thing that has happened is that the Somalian government has accused the Kenyan government of interfering with the internal affairs. An accusation that has really angered the Kenyan government. And that's not all. The US Embassy recently issued a terror alert. They warned their citizens to be careful and alert, because they had intelligence information that a major hotel in Nairobi, that normally attracts a lot of tourists, is a target of the Shabaab militants. And so, one very important reason why this story of boring Somalia politics, that's the way Kenyans look at it, this story that looks like it's about boring Somalia politics should be of great interest to you. Why? Because it is linked to the terror attack, imminent terror attack, that the US Embassy has warned people about. Now, just a quick aside here. I believe the way the US Embassy in Nairobi has behaved is as a result of what happened last year in January, when there was an attack by Al-Shabaab on a hotel in the Westlands Kileleshwa, Leafy area. Remember that one? And some sources said the Americans warned only their own. They didn't tell anybody else. So I guess this time round, in case the attack happens, they didn't want to be blamed like last time. Now what has happened already is that security has been beefed up around major hotels in and around Nairobi. But even without the American warning, we know that there's been escalating terror attacks in the northeastern side of Kenya, Mandera, Garissa, Lamu, in the coastal part of Kenya. And usually, when this happens, what we've seen in the past, it is usually a build-up to a major attack closer to Kenya's capital, of Nairobi, either in Nairobi or in Mombasa. So if you have friends or relatives in those particular places in the country, it may be a good idea to tell them to be very alert. So, let's dive into this politics so that we understand exactly what is unfolding here. And while there's talk of the 11 MPs who visited Somalia being charged with treason, a quick way to understand everything that is going down is to focus, or at least to be aware, of a character, the president of Jubaland, a man called President Ahmed Mohamed Islam. or better known as Madobe. You know, the other day, I was trying to explain to somebody, unsuccessfully, that the Al-Shabaab issue is very much politics. Hapana Chris, hii mambo ni mambo ya religion. Wewe wacha zako. This is a perfect opportunity for you to see how it is politics. Now, Bwana Madobe, the current president of Jubaland, was once a member of an organization that ruled Mogadishu for a short while, called the Islamic Courts. And he worked very closely with another member of the Islamic Courts, a man called Godane. Now Godane, now deceased, he was killed in an American drone attack in Somalia, was one of the founders of the Al-Shabaab. And later, this Madobe guy fought with Al-Shabaab for the control of Kismayo. As you know, Kismayo is a port in Somalia. Very strategic and very important to have control over. For anybody who wants enough revenues to run a government controlling the area, or a large area that extends far beyond Kismayo. And so in that particular battle, Al-Shabaab prevailed and took control of Kismayo until the Kenya Defense Forces came in and removed the Al-Shabaab. And they reverted to the local leadership, led by Bwana Madobe, who is now president of the area, Kismayo and the surrounding area, which is called Jubaland, and runs up to the Kenyan border. Now, this is a very important buffer zone for Kenya, security-wise. Why? Because the presence of Kenya Defense Forces in this particular area makes it difficult for terrorists to cross over and carry out attacks in Kenya using this particular part of the border, which is the easiest, most convenient, the one which was most used before things changed. Now, last August, there was an election in Jubaland, which was won by this Madobe guy. But the government in Somalia was not happy, and they had fronted their own candidate, who lost. And the Mogadishu regime did not take this loss kindly. Why? Because they believed without the support of Kenya, Bwana Madobe would never have won. The way they are putting it is that the Kenya government interfered in the internal affairs of Somalia. And now you can understand where the problem is. Because Kenya is concerned about her internal security, which is threatened by Al-Shabaab. And you should also be able to understand where the Kenyan government was alarmed, and very angry as well. Because the Somali government in Mogadishu, which has received a lot of support, huge support from the Kenyan government, is now talking language that is very similar to Al-Shabaab, using phrases like interference in our internal affairs. And it is also important to note that at around the time the elections were being organized in Jubaland is when these Al-Shabaab attacks in Kenya escalated very, very significantly. So much so, that non-locals in this area have left. Schools have been shut down. In a nutshell, the political problem here is as follows. The regime in Mogadishu desperately wants to hang on to power. They also want to control as much of Somalia as possible. And they see the Kenyan government as an obstacle. The very people who played a key role in getting them into power in the first place have now become the problem, according to Mogadishu. That's just politics. And it would have been just politics, except we are talking about the lives of people here, innocent people who pass on as a result of terror attacks in Kenya. And the Kenyan government is all about making Kenya safe, which of course is not the priority of the fellows in Mogadishu, quite naturally. Now that we understand the background, let's go back to these 11 legislators. Now, according to them, they recently had a meeting with President Uhuru Kenyatta to discuss insecurity in the region. And the president told them that the solution to this insecurity is with those legislators. Yeah, they can come up with a solution. And it would seem that this trip to Somalia by the legislators was a response, was the MPs following up, on what the president had said. So they hopped onto a plane and flew to Mogadishu and had an audience with the president of Somalia. Now it is said what the Somalia government told the legislators was that the Kenyan government needed to stop supporting Madobe in Jubaland, and then the problem would be solved. And we should all know that when they stop supporting this Madobe fellow, what they'll actually be doing will be supporting Al-Shabaab, who will promptly take over. And the Kenyan government can't do that. I think it is now clear why the Kenyan government was saying that these 11 legislators interfered with the national security. But there was something else, which is greatly worrying the Kenyan government. At this meeting with the president of Somalia, also present was the head of intelligence in Somalia. Now, let us get something very clear here. If somebody called you to a meeting with the head of intelligence or an intelligence officer of a foreign country, don't go, because you'll be committing treason. What can you possibly discuss with the intelligence boss of a foreign country? You tell me. Even if you claim that you only wanted to get information, the truth is you're having a discussion. So obviously as they give you information, they'll give you suggestions. And when you reject these suggestions, you'll have to give reasons. In other words, you'll be giving them information. On your motherland, you will be betraying your motherland, pure and simple. And so in my view, and I don't always agree with the Kenyan government, but in my view in this case, when somebody introduces the word treason, it's justified. If it was very important to have that meeting in order to secure the security of the northeastern province in Kenya, then the way it should have happened is with the full knowledge of the Kenyan government, the full knowledge of our intelligence, foreign service, and those individuals representing those sectors of government must be in that meeting, must. If you have a meeting without informing those sectors in government, without those people being present, then it is simply treason. And it gets even more fascinating when you realize one of the 11 legislators who was at that meeting is a former military man, the legislator for Mandera North, Abwana Bashir Abdullahi. If anybody wants to sell us the idea that the legislators were ignorant of what they were getting involved in, then at the very least, this former military man should have told them, should have informed them that, hey guys, we are stepping on dangerous waters here because of 1, 2, 3. I think those of us who did not understand now fully understand why this is such a big issue. Now, there's something else I need to remind you about. The Western world, including the United States of America, Great Britain, etc., have refused, they have vetoed any move in the United Nations to declare the Al-Shabaab militants a terrorist organization. The Western world, which previously looked to Kenya, to control things in Somalia, have suddenly changed their position. And most people believe the reason why they've changed their position is because of the recently identified huge deposits of oil off the coast of Somalia and off the coast of Kenya, including the section, which is in dispute between Kenya and Somalia. Now, history has shown us, that where the Western world comes in a place where neighbors previously lived in peace, in a place where previously it was peaceful, what usually happens is that the peace vanishes. War breaks out, which never ends. That is what has happened in the past. And the way the Somali government has been behaving recently, flexing its muscles, seems to suggest yeah, that the newfound muscles and the flexing of these muscles have a lot to do, yeah, with the change of heart of major Western powers over the Somali issue. Yeah. Folks, things here have now become elephant. Anyway, the pressing question Kenyans need to ask these 11 legislators is, what did these discussions yield? Yeah, what was the solution going forward to bring more peace and security in northeastern Kenya? What is the way forward as per their discussions? Yeah, because if really the discussions were about the security of the region, they should have come back with solutions. They should have come back, hit the ground running with things they're doing, yeah, in order to restore security in the region, which has not happened so far. Maybe it'll happen tomorrow or next week, I don't know. But already, this lull after their return should be very worrying. This inaction on the part of the legislators immediately after their return, yeah, we're not seeing what they're doing, should be very worrying to every Kenyan. Even as we brace ourselves as a country, yeah, for what the Americans have warned us about. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.